Stephen Meade again, back with another Bullseye Guy podcast. Again, as always, super excited. Greg Reitman. I've known Greg for years. Blue Water. What does that mean? What does he do? It's film, it's environmental, it's eco, it's Nobel, it's crazy people, crazy films, and we're going to get right into the introduction. So, Mr. Reitman, actually, where are you coming from? Don't give us addresses because of privacy, but used to be in Marina Del Rey. I think you've moved. So
I am. I'm now.
Where you are and your background.
Sure. I'm now. I'm based in Del Mar, San Diego. I got out right before the pandemic, so beautiful Del Mar, La Jolla area. And I would say, as a production company, we positioned last year. We started the Blue Water Film Festival to coincide with UN World's Oceans Day. We did it as a small little film festival. We had about 20 films. And now this year we've really grown up. It's now a 4-day film festival. It's a hybrid. It's both physical and virtual. So it's June 4th to June 8th. June 8th, which is UN World's Oceans Day, where most of the films will be showing. We'll be doing some physical at the Lot in La Jolla, and also virtually we'll be streaming on the Filmocracy platform. We've got really a roster of great films. We have 25 films in total, 7 features, 18 shorts.
Wow.
Some of the features include the Sundance film that came out this year called Playing with Sharks, with Nat Geo is distributing, and they'll be one of our promotional partners this year. We'll also have a bunch of short films from, what's that?
No, let's back up. Let's go back historical, build foundation, and then we'll accelerate back to what you're doing now, because for context, I want people to know some of your background. So talk to us initially just about filmmaking, kind of what your interest was, your motivation, and how you got into it.
Sure. So, like many, dream of the stars and dream of, making films. Mine actually started, the days when I was living in Bondi Beach in Australia, and had an opportunity to go hiking in the Blue Mountains of Australia. And that was really my sort of epiphany moment of creating the Blue Water, production company. And it took about, I would say, 5 or 6 years later for that to really materialize. I started out in high tech, working for LSI Logic and for a company called the Meta Group that got bought by the Gartner Group. But I would say, I really cut my teeth on my first documentary film, which you can see in the backdrop on Catalina. It was called Hollywood's Magical Island. It was narrated by Peter Coyote. It was really a historical film about the Wrigley family and how they bought that island sight unseen, and how they transformed it into the playground of the stars. I then had the opportunity, actually at the Temecula Film Festival, where I won the Audience Award, where I met Josh Tikel, who was doing his Veggie Van short film. Josh and I partnered up, and we ended up making a film at the time called Fields of Fuel. It got changed to Fuel, and that film won the Audience Award at Sundance. I then, mixed it up again and did another documentary film, which is currently on Gaia, which is called Rooted in Peace. And I would say it's more of a sort of a rich IP. It had a book which won a number of awards, one being Spiritual Author of the Year. There's an Audible that Amazon put out as well. And then there's the doc. And that was really asking the question, which is probably more timely than ever, of why are we so violent? And why don't we connect with nature? What separates us? And I really looked at that, and it became a personal voyage in terms of health and wellness and consciousness, and had an amazing lineup of people that I interviewed, being Deepak Chopra, David Lynch, Nobel Peace Laureate Reed McGuire. And then from there, after I made that film, I became an adjunct professor at NYU Tisch, teaching, really going back to my roots and teaching marketing, distribution, and finance. And that was really, so that's sort of like a little snapshot of who I am.
Yeah, let's go backwards, Greg, to Fuel, because Fuel, I think, is fascinating in terms of not only your involvement with Josh, but what you both did in terms of product integration. So for those of the people who don't know, talk to us about what Fuel is, what the film was, what it was trying to accomplish, and then the integration of corporate, I thought, was really fascinating.
Yeah, so I was really at the brainchild of writing up the brand marketing, partnership presentation. and show Josh how that works and how that's done. And then he took it to like the 10th degree and really mastered it as a master. But the brand integration really began actually when I first started with him, where we had about, I don't know, 20 or more growers, people that were growing soybeans and farmers. And so we really reached out to that collective, that biodiesel contingent. And that was really the beginning seeds of us raising, I think we got about 10, 20K checks. We raised about $200,000. So that was really the beginning of looking at how do you get into production? How do you, when you're already going to be filming and want to use certain backdrops, how can you leverage some companies and some branding, not only for the physical production, but also for social media and marketing?
And talk about what Fuel was, because again, not everybody might have seen or knows the film, and it
Well,
was really an early entry in this sort of eco-environmental
it
genre now.
really, it really was. I mean, if you really look back, we all do. We all look back. Fuel was a game changer. I mean, the market crashed in 2008 when the film won the audience award at Sundance. There was a huge article written up about food versus fuel, and and the pushback of making taking fuel sources from food sources. Excuse me, making food sources, extracting food sources to make fuel. Um, and there was also revolutionary technology coming out at the time. I think we were working with Solzyme, which was an algae company.
Yeah, the algae guys.
I drove the first Mercedes-Benz on algae up at Sundance. I mean, what Fuel was sort of the precursor to really understand our beginning involvement of extricating ourselves from an oil economy, and really understanding, like, how are we going to become energy independent, and what does renewable energy look like, and what does that portfolio look like, not just in terms of biodiesel, but for solar and other new emerging technologies. And I think what you get, in regards to that particular lens, is a really concise view of just all the different types of new technologies that are available and that were emerging. And now, obviously, 12 years later, we see them now. We see solar now, displacing is now, the writing is on the wall. So we were really the beginning of that. And I would also posit by saying that Fuel really put me on the map. I would say the global map. And when you win at Sundance, every film festival around the world wanted to see that film. It went on and won a number of awards. It was shortlisted at the Oscars. It was on Hulu for about 5 years, had multiple runs, was on Netflix. I mean, it really had a huge playability, and it still plays today,
Yeah.
Which is really wonderful.
And that's part of what you had said earlier when you talked about the different sponsors that were growing and things like that. A lot of the movie was about, can you use algae to run a vehicle instead of gasoline? I mean, there were a lot of other things, but just simple stuff along those lines, which is why Josh was running around in a algae powered school bus or something like that.
He was in a Winnebago van. If you want to get down to the real footage, yeah, he was in a Winnebago. I think it was a French van, and he was making his own fuel. I mean, he was really a Renaissance man. I mean, he really, I made fuel with him. I mean, it was an incredible experience of learning how to make fuel, and in our backyard, which I don't recommend.
And was your interest at that time in filmmaking or production, or was it did you know you were going to be interested in this sort of blue water environmental journey, or was just Josh a really good story that took you down that path?
No, I always had a green thumb. Actually, my green thumb started prior to Josh. When Josh had his sort of veggie van moment in college, I think it was at FSU. I actually had my tree planting experience at UMass Amherst, where I ended up putting together a tree planting initiative to plant, I think it was called the Martin Luther King Forest on my campus at Amherst. And that was really my beginning. I mean, my uncle always took me hiking, so I always had a green thumb. I was very interested in the environment. I think what Fuel did for me was it really taught me and showed me how you can make content and how you can impact people for the environment.
Okay. And from there, I remember, again, you're talking about trees now. So let's transition through from Fuel
Yeah,
to the trees that I know you were doing, which somewhat led to Rooted in Peace. And just
correct.
draw us across that bridge.
Yeah, so basically, after I made, Fuel with Josh, I was very interested in telling my own personal story. I felt like coming out of that film, I just saw like our world was changing. I had a very visceral experience at the JFK airport where I was almost arrested for not giving up my bottled water. And I kept asking the question, it was like right after 9/11, there were a bunch of women wearing a hashish over their heads, and they were going through the same regiment that I was going through, probably worse in terms of what they were wearing. And I was asking, like, what is America becoming? And that really propelled me to want to tell this story, Rooted in Peace, which I thought had merit. And really looked at some of the great peace icons of the time, being Pete Seeger, who we had a chance to interview before he died, which is really a great moment in the film. If you get a chance to see the film, is a place up in Beacon, New York, where every Sunday you have these two groups of organizations that come. You have these like pro-war, pro-gun group, and then you have the peacemakers, and there are these lights that jig-jag right between, and cars come through and they're honking. You're really not sure if they're honking for the peacemakers or the people that are fighting for their guns, right? And so there's a lot of distortion. And I kind of felt like that was really what getting to the crux of our film was really about. It's like, let's clear out this distortion and let's really figure out like what is the alchemy for peace. And in that journey, it really is our connection with nature.
And so Rooted in Peace was the name of
Yes,
the film.
yes.
You were again, I don't know terminology because I'm
I
not
was the
as entertainment, but
protagonist.
you were
I was the protagonist.
okay,
And
you
then
were
I
the
also,
protagonist within the film.
yeah, and then I also wrote a book, which I can share right here, which won 3 book awards, which is really amazing, which was endorsed by Deepak Chopra, which has a lot more information, as it relates to the story that I couldn't tell on the film that I told in the book that was published by Llewellyn Publishers.
Good. And so I would have said, not knowing the proper terminology, you were the star,
Yeah,
because when I watched it, it was basically you were the subject of the film, walking through and doing these observations and interviews and things like that. Was it different being on that side of the camera, or was that
it was.
something you liked?
Well, first thing first, it was probably one of the hardest and most challenging part of filmmaking that I've ever done. I think it's one thing when you're directing that's hard and you're interviewing and you're scoping. It's another thing of like, how do you direct yourself on camera?
Yeah.
I mean, truth be told, I took a lot of acting classes when I first came out in Hollywood. So, I prepared myself, I guess, from that point of view, and was probably a really good actor. I just never followed that thread or but no, I think that I think probably the 2 hardest challenges were, 1, being on camera, and then 2, how do you show peace? I mean, think about most times you see people who are practicing peace, they're meditating. That's
Yeah.
not a very, action oriented, dynamic visual. So really the hard part was, 1, understanding how you achieve peace, and then 2, how do you frame it? How do you show it to an audience where people can understand it, live it, be it, and embrace it.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
And so that was Rooted in Peace. Then we had a little bit of entry into My Lane. I still was harassing you. I should have been in the film, but that's a different story. Even though I don't want to be in the film, I should have been, but that's all right.
You're talking about crypto.
Yeah. So talk to us about crypto, and then that'll eventually get us through the COVID gap here and up to the festival now. So
Sure. So, so one of the things that occurred, after I made, and after, Rooted in Peace had a theatrical release. It went out via Landmark Theaters, about 225 theaters. It was in Whole Foods, the DVD. So, it really, we did a lot of marketing from that. And after that experience, I really wanted to transition out from nonfiction into fiction, and had the opportunity to meet an extraordinary young producer at the time, Sandra Oberman, who's really dynamic and doing quite well. And and she was sharing, some of her projects with me up at Sundance, and one of them was crypto. I had a tech background prior to being in film, so I've always been interested in tech. Like I said, I worked for two tech companies, two leading tech companies. One of them was obviously LSI Logic, which was, at that time, a $3 billion company with $1 billion cash. I ran their entertainment division, and the other one I was mentioning before was the Meta Group that was sold on, I think, on the NASDAQ for about $400 million to the Gartner Group, which is the leading industry tech company, for research analysis in the world. So I really love tech. And so when I saw the package about crypto, I said, wow, this is really interesting. No one really knows about blockchain. It's sort of new, it's cutting edge. I saw the project, and actually we thought we were going to finance it. And they got their finance from Lionsgate. So we were out. And then for extenuating circumstances, some of which happens all the time, some of their money fell out. I had a friend and colleague, Scott Annan, who was putting together a crypto fund. And so I shared the project with him. And I think within 72 hours, we were able to galvanize a bunch of capital and came on as executive producers for the Kurt Russell spy thriller.
And it is, again, I don't know the term, so theatrical DVD distribution.
Where
is it now and who's in it? How about that?
Sure. So it went theatrical. It was released via Lionsgate. It stars Bo Knapp, Alexis Bledel, Luke Hemsworth, and Kurt Russell. It went from the theatrical to Netflix for 6 months, and I think now it's on Hulu.
Okay. So
and it'll be there for a while.
It's on Hulu.
Yeah.
All right. I'll have to watch it. I'll have to see if the guys are
I got to tell you something.
See how good the writing is.
I got to tell you something. It's really a great film. And when, we were in Cannes in 2019, I moderated a blockchain crypto panel. And people were pinging me and say, because we were just selling Clay Epstein at Film Mode was selling the title for international. And people were pinging me, say, "Oh my God, what a great, little independent feature film!" And it really is. I mean, it was done really low budget. The director worked for Kurt Russell for about 20 years. That's how we got Kurt to be in the film. And Yale Productions, produced it and financed it. And it's a little gem, for a little $3 million film. I think it'll play for a very, very long time.
It's amazing. Very cool. Very cool. So that was crypto. Then the gap year, there were some things going on, because I remember you had sent me some projects and I asked what happened to them. And you gave me a 1-word email, COVID. I guess that's what happened.
Yeah, it was a little bit of strange. We were, we definitely had a bunch of action-oriented titles. And, because of COVID, things became very, very challenging. And one of the things that also occurred was if you look at in my portfolio, I had 90% of, fiction films. I had one other nonfiction documentary, and I was really spending very little amount of time on that film. And, we in 2020, right before COVID hit, we were up at Sundance, and I ran into two-time Pro Bowler Vernon Davis.
Okay.
Who played for the 49ers and the Broncos. And I shared a little bit about our new documentary called Plastic versus Planet. And Vernon, he really, I don't know, he followed up, and it was amazing. And so he stepped on as our executive producer and helped finance the development. And so we've been shooting in COVID, which was really challenging. And so we're just coming out of finishing up our 5-minute sizzler and getting ready to go to the market for full financing for our film.
Perfect. And that'll lead us into a couple things coming up, the film festival. Then we may get to Monaco and Cannes if we have time.
Sure.
So coming up, talk to me about the film festival, what it is, how many people are participating, what you need help with. Give us the latest on the Blue Water Film Festival.
Sure. So the Blue Water Film Festival, like I mentioned, runs from June 4th to June 8th. We have 25 films, 7 features, 18 shorts. We announce our program on May 4th, usually 30 days out. Some of the films I mentioned before was Playing with Sharks that played at Sundance, which is a real darling film that Nat Geo picked up that we'll be showcasing at the film festival. We'll also be showing a film called Entangled, which is now streaming on Curiosity. And there's a couple of others. You know, we also do, which is a little bit unique, is beside, you know, showcasing, you know, emerging filmmakers and shorts, we also put together a 1-day summit called the Blue Water Summit that'll be all day, running on June 7th from 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll be announcing ocean funders will be announcing their 100,000 prize for ocean innovation, which
Okay.
we're really excited about. So, which is really awesome. And then we just have a number of amazing speakers and panelists. We've curated about 50 speakers. So some of the topics are innovation to packaging beyond plastic, the global intervention, ending plastic pollution. Some of the people that are attending are the World Wildlife Fund, the Plastic Pollution Coalition, IUCN, NOAA, Ocean Alliance. I think the governor from Washington will be doing some opening remarks as well. So we just have an incredible roster of talent, and also some amazing ocean heroes. I think David de Rothschild will also be coming and speaking, as well as some people from Sea Shepherd Society and Parlay for the Oceans. So really what we're trying to do is create a voice for the oceans. Our oceans are in trouble, as Dr. Sylvia Earle has brought to our attention. Beside climate change, plastic, microplastics is on the bottom of they say about 20 million tons that lives on the bottoms of all the oceans, and is now getting into the food supply and really affecting not just marine life, but also human life. So we're trying to raise the bar and really get people to understand how important oceans are. They're the lungs of the earth. If the oceans die, we die. And so really, it's really just a culmination of bringing brilliance in terms of storytelling, science, technology, and innovation in a 1-day platform, and really gearing it up for, you know, UN World's Oceans Day, which is on June 8th.
And when you say 1-day platform, the dates I wrote down, it's a 4-day summit.
It's a 4-day film festival, and from June 4th to June 8th, and the summit is on June 7th.
Got it.
And then our award ceremony it will occur on June 8th.
And again, COVID rules are all changing. How are you going to do the film summit in that area? Are there multiple theaters, or because you're on the lot, there's different screening rooms? How's it going to work?
No, so the film festival will be both a hybrid. It'll be both physical and virtual. So on the physical side, we'll be working, you know, with the lot in La Jolla, where they have about 8 screens, and we'll be showing some films there during that time interval, the 4th to the 8th. And then everything else will stream on the Filmocracy platform. So Filmocracy is a really great digital streaming platform where there's a isometric map that shows all of the different things that people can do virtually. Beside, you know, watching films, there's a film club, there's a pavilion, there's a gallery, et cetera, et cetera. But also we'll be streaming that out. So they also have a webinar platform. So all of our speakers will be coming in there as part of the summit,
including the film. So you'll stream the films, the interviews, the panels,
so we'll interview all the filmmakers. So that will be on the Blue Water map. That'll be in the in-demand theater. So you know, so if you haven't watched the film in terms of real time at the theater, you can watch it virtually at your discretion in the in-demand theater. That will run for about a month. Usually we like to run it from June 4th to July 4th, because maybe we might do it. So last year we announced our awards on right before July 4th weekend, which we thought was really nice, right? You know, for the filmmakers that won.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
All right, so that's coming up. Hopefully that'll be a yearly occurrence that will manifest.
I think so. I mean, one of the things we're trying to do is we're trying to create, you know, some sustainability. So we are looking at creating an ocean fund, which sort of segues into Monaco, and you know, and building out, you know, more capital not only for our production, but also for our philanthropic causes as well.
Yeah, so let's move over to that. There's some opportunity for you to go to Monaco, a family office, whether it's Monaco or not. The opportunity and interest at the family office is in raising funds.
Correct.
You know, so talk to us about that with the fund and the fundraising, and then we'll finish up with Cannes and Film Festival and what the opportunity is there.
Sure, sure. So, one of the things, like, we're going through high growth, right? So what we've come to realize is, like, the companies that really get to market quicker, faster, smarter, that are more resilient, are capitalized. And so one of the things we've done is we've taken ownership of the Blue Water brand, particularly with the film festival, with the summit. And also, we're building out a channel called the Blue Water Channel, which we partnered with Molten Technology, which is a disruptive technology company. It's a DRM, a digital rights management tool. And so we've curated our first catalog of content of 25 hours, and we'll be now deploying those assets on all streaming platforms, beginning, next month.
Okay.
And so really, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so part of the roll up is really looking at all the different pieces, whether it was live action, animation, um, distribution, or gaming, and creating a finance mechanism of a fund. So we're creating now the Blue Water Media Fund as part of the Blue Water Enterprises, is really a gateway to fast track and get this content accelerated into the marketplace. There's a lot of really great storytellers that are out there that have great stories, and they're not being financed because for obvious reasons. And so one of the things that we do really well is we like to make content that makes a difference in the world. And we think that we're really good at that. And so we feel that the Blue Water brand has an opportunity to really get up market. And so the idea of having a fund will only accelerate these stories and really help people in terms of the awareness of what's going on with our planet. It's not just land, but sea, and really giving them an opportunity, not just in a nonfiction way, but in a regular movie or a game or other alternative experience where they can digest that content, and then they can begin to change their human habits.
All right. And then following that, if you do Monaco, regardless, it's on the funding side. Cannes Film Festival. I know you've done Cannes before. You've had
I have.
films there. You've had success. We hope it's going to open up again this year for 2021. If it does, what's your goal, objective, outcome? What would you like to do at Cannes this year?
So that's a great question. Like every film festival, well, one of the things that's great about going to a film festival is just being social, right? And connecting with people. And I think, like, if anything we've learned from COVID is, isolation has really made us appreciate, the kindredness of people and humanity. So just the idea of just being outside, being in Cannes, being in the Riviera, just that in itself is
Yeah.
just amazing, right? I think also, because we have a channel now, and we're acquiring content, we have a multi-purpose. So we're not just looking to pitch product or set up other production financing, but we're also looking at, new titles to, one, come to our film festival for 2022, as well as looking at titles to be on our channel. And I got to be very candid with you, Stephen. I mean, the Cannes International Film Festival has been very, very friendly to us.
Huh.
As a film festival, with their platform. They have the Senado Filmmaker platform that basically profiles every filmmaker, if you're a buyer, distributor, and they've been wanting to work with the Blue Water Film Festival. I keep telling them, like, we're just too small, and they keep saying, no, you're going to get big, where we want to work with you. So it's
Jump
really
in early.
interesting that they've sort of taken ownership or acknowledge the fact that, we're a little gem growing, in La Jolla, in San Diego,
Yeah.
with an environmental mission. And so I keep telling them, like, we're too small, but they keep saying to me, no, just, let's talk next year. And I'm like, okay, sure. So we'll see.
Well, hopefully next year is this year, because I think the timing is right. I mean, there's always been interest, Greg, and you and Josh and a lot of the guys were in early, but the momentum around climate interest and stories and storytelling and things like that, I think is, it's at an all-time high, but I still think it's small and early and going to get bigger. So
Yeah,
excited for you.
I think for us, the brand of Blue Water is really the cornerstone for us to build, and grow. There's Earth Day and there's also there's water and there's Oceans Day. And I think the concept you mentioned where it all started about blue water was really about connecting to nature,
Yeah.
making impact films, making people think about things in a different lens. And storytelling is the magical kingdom where it all lives. I think that like we have a unique opportunity to really make a difference with our platform, with our streaming, and really like Patagonia, which was one of the brands you talked about product placement and learning about
Yeah.
brand integration. They were one of our early adopters. We did brand partnership with Patagonia with Rooted in Peace. I don't remember the Rooted in Peace t-shirts that were Patagonia's. Um,
I
and if
still
you think
have
about,
one. They were
and if
great.
you, what's that?
I have one. You gave me one years ago.
Yeah. And if you think about like that brand, that is a resilient brand that's its core mission has always been the environment. And they are just, I think, I don't know how many hundreds of millions of dollars they've grown to, but a
Yeah.
testament to Siobhan, the CEO, of staying on course, not losing faith, really understanding, the metrics, the financial
Yeah.
metrics, understanding.
The metrics, the mission, the brand,
Yeah.
the message, everything's always been consistent with them.
Yeah, and I think that's what I've come to realize. Like this is really where our true glory begins, is like just stay true to your brand and
Yeah.
just, we don't got to be everything and everything. Blue Water wants to become the platform for the voice for the oceans.
Yeah.
We're interested in water, we're interested in the oceans, and we're also interested in amplifying the next generation of emerging filmmakers, right? So we know as a filmmaker, the rite of passage, how difficult it is. I think teaching at NYU Tisch has taught me a lot of going back to college, teaching at college, what filmmakers go through, preparing them for, become a
Absolutely.
filmmaker. It's a challenge.
Yeah.
And so, I think that like the Sundance Institute has done a phenomenal job in terms of building that platform. There needs to be other platforms because not everybody is going to get into Sundance and not everyone is going to have that opportunity. And so, and that was really where Tribeca came out. Like you think about it, like there were other film festivals with De Niro, right?
Yeah.
Tribeca became a very quick film festival very, very quickly and grew very, very quickly with AT&T and if we look back now, I almost say like we're having the same type of growth as them. I mean, it'll be really interesting this year to see how much we really grow. And if we're able to sell like the naming rights, for the
I
festival.
think you will, Greg, because as Sundance gets bigger, that means each of the categories get smaller.
Yes.
So even if they want to do environmental, there's only so many slots at Sundance because their mission is different, which means I think the opportunity for you and what you've built and having something environmental specific for the sponsors, the participants, the attendees whose ethos is on eco and environment and sustainability means you'll carve out everything that Sundance and Tribeca have, and
Exactly.
you have a chance to really have the platform that wins.
Yeah, and I think really understanding our lane, like we really come
Yeah.
to realize this is our lane. Like we don't want to go out of our lane, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to make horror movies or
And it's not just you.
chopping.
Sponsors want something that's more, curated and defined to their audience. And you
Exactly.
just can't. I like Sundance and Tribeca and Toronto. Those are all great film festivals, but they're so broad, and I think there's just a really unique gap for you that's really big. It's
And it really is.
it's
And
the
I
blue
gotta tell
ocean.
you, they're really flagship. I mean, it's really remarkable. Even like last year in COVID, we had 20 films that we showed at the film festival. Most film festivals, we're lucky to get 5 or 7.
Yeah.
Even this year, if you look at like, other film festivals like Sun Valley Film Festival, I think they had like 13 films with the Ford Foundation.
Yeah.
We have more films than Sun Valley. We have 25 films. I mean,
it's amazing.
and with no marketing and no advertising. And so, with technology on the Film Freeway website, these filmmakers have found us. That, by the way, just because they found us doesn't mean that we're going to select their film. when I tell you these films are phenomenal films, I personally curated them. So, unless a film wasn't brilliant, I didn't want it. And
Yeah.
I really took ownership being a professor or an adjunct professor at Tisch. Tisch is like the number, 2 film school in the country. It has a
Sure.
high pedigree for what it means to be a filmmaker. And so I've really taken ownership of that, as a curator, and said, look, if the story isn't good, if it's not compelling, if the visuals aren't good, we don't want it. And so all the films I've given my personal stamp on are really great.
Perfect. Well, it's going to be exciting. I'm hoping I can participate, depending on, when and where travel. But if I can do it in person, I will. Regardless, I've always been a huge fan,
Yes.
big
Thank you.
supporter. Blue Water is exciting, and I'm looking forward to this year and the next year and the next decade with you, Greg. So thanks so
Yeah.
much.
And that's how we see it the same way. We see it like this isn't going away. It's gonna be like a bamboo. It's gonna grow for a long time.
Get a little plug in for me. There you go. All right, guys. Stephen Meade, the Bullseye Guy podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Greg, appreciate it as always.
Thank you,
Stay
Stephen.
safe and stay warm.
Peace.